Welcome to Mid-Maryland Votes, Maryland's meeting place for real conversations about the issues affecting our communities. On this episode, returning guest John Myrick, Republican candidate for Maryland governor, joins us to tackle the controversy surrounding Governor Wes Moore. From criticisms of his financial leadership and redistricting battles to backlash over comments about the Maryland state flag. It's direct, it's controversial, and it's conversation you won't want to miss. Now let's get into it. Welcome to Mid-Maryland Votes. I am your host, Mark Flynn. With me is my co-host,
Ethan Lowen.
And we are here with a very distinguished guest. We are here with John Myrick. He's the candidate for governor of Maryland. John, welcome back to the program.
Gentlemen, I appreciate you having me back on.
We love having you, John. Whether we agree on everything or not, you are a well-spoken man who makes people think. And that's what Mid-Maryland Votes is all about.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Things are rushing along, both in politics. I guess politics never sleeps, as you're finding out. I don't think that you...
Neither do I, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. I believe you and your running mate, Brenda Cham, have been literally going 24 hours a day for the last 5 months.
I entered the race literally the day that you could file. So we've been at this since the 26th of February 2025. So this month marks a year that we've been campaigning for this.
Well, I love that about you, John, because you guys will not be outworked. That's for sure.
Absolutely not.
The draw, you're not going to lose because you didn't work hard enough. We know you're doing very well on the campaign trail right now. Can you tell us some of the updates you've seen while you've been campaigning?
Well, yeah. I mean, again, as you said, we've been all over the place. Last year, we did over 400 events in every single county and Baltimore City. We were in every county at least 4 times. Some of the counties we were there as many as 35 times last year. I put 25,000 miles on my car. Brenda put about the same on hers last year, and we never left Maryland. And that's on top of both of us working full-time jobs. So, we're out pretty much every day or every night at an event somewhere in the state, meeting Marylanders where they are, because that's what this is about. It's about reaching out to the constituents, reaching out to people where they're at, listening to what they have to say, hearing what concerns them, and letting them know, first off, that somebody cares, and secondly, that we care enough that we're going to do something about it.
And so now that you have met, I don't know, probably at least 5-10% of the population of Maryland, what are some of the observations that you're making about kind of the different areas of Maryland, the character of the people of Maryland? What are you seeing with this type of reach you're having?
Well, I mean, as you both know, as Marylanders, Marylanders are some of the finest people anywhere that you're going to find anywhere. And yeah, we have differences of, the way we do things, everything from, the folks out there in Western Maryland, in Oakland, to Ocean City, Northeast, down to St. Mary's. There's a different character and a different flavor in each of the regions, which is what makes Maryland such a wonderful place to be, because we have such a diverse cultural experience, including, our topography here in Maryland. One of the only states where you can go from the mountains, you can go from skiing to the ocean, to the beach within 5 hours. I mean, it's the same, and we've got everything in between. This is the greatest state in the nation. But across the state, even given the cultural differences from Appalachia to Ocean City, Marylanders are the same people. Marylanders care about the same things. They want lower taxes. And I don't care if they're Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated voters, doesn't matter. Every single one of them wants lower taxes. They want good public schools. They want safe streets. They want the government out of their business. And they want a responsive government that cares about their needs. And they're frustrated. Every single person we talk to is frustrated to death about the fact that it seems like nobody cares about what they have to say. And all you have to do is look at recent events down in Annapolis to see that they're not wrong. Look at the redistricting, fiasco that's going on down there. According to Bill Ferguson, who I never agree with. But according to State Senate President Ferguson, 76% of Marylanders who've testified about redistricting opposed it. Yet this governor says he's doing the will of the people. Really? Explain that to me, please. So these people aren't wrong. They see it, and they see it in spades, and they're mad. Again, Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated, they are all angry. They're finally waking up to this, and they're finally tired of it.
You know, it's interesting to me that the governor continues to blame everybody else for the financial woes of Maryland, except him and his administration. But it's not his fault that we are now. I just saw a poll today. It said that Marylanders now have the third worst buying power in the entire country.
Exactly. And we have the fifth highest tax structure in the entire nation. And we pay the most in utility costs of anyone in the country. All of this is bad policy decisions on the governor's part. And quite frankly, you know, this guy can blame whoever he wants. It's a competence or a lack of competence issue and a spending issue. I always use Pennsylvania as an example. You know, Governor Shapiro up there is a Democrat, so this has nothing to do with partisan politics. They've got twice as many people as Maryland. They've got 13 million. We've got 6.2. They've got 4 times the road network. They're 5 times the size of Maryland from a landmass area. Their budget last year was $50.1 billion. Our budget was 67.3. So they provide all of the same services to twice as many people on 5 times the land area and 4 times the road network, with 50,000 less state employees for $17 billion less a year. So this has nothing to do with partisanship. This has to do with a lack of competence from this governor and this administration.
So how do you answer the critics that say that when Moore does blame President Trump and the Republican administration for the woes of Maryland?
It's not playing with the Marylanders anymore, quite frankly. Democrats, when I'm in Baltimore City or here in Prince George's County talking with Democratic voters, every one of them is frustrated and mad, and none of them are buying his lies anymore. They understand that this is his fault. You know, this governor entered office with a $5.5 billion surplus, as you well know. Last year, he ran us into a $3.5 billion deficit and raised taxes by the largest tax increase in Maryland history. 338 new taxes and fees. You know, everything from doubling the vehicle emissions testing fees to the ridiculous amounts that it's costing to register your cars now, to increases in taxes and vending machine taxes.
Anything they can put a fee on, they put a fee on.
Doubled boat fees, boat registration fees in a state that's a maritime state, So they're not buying it. And this year he raised again $1.87 billion in new taxes and fees last year. And he's put us into a $1.5 billion deficit again this year. How is that even possible? Yeah, the math ain't mathing anymore, quite frankly. And people see it.
The popularity of the Moore administration has had a large drop, particularly last year, by more than 10 percentage points. And then on top of that, there has been an unusually large number of his cabinet members that have resigned. That is also usually a sign of a flagging administration. Then when you talk about the fiscal situation, you mentioned, of course, the $3 billion deficit last year. This year, it is $1.5 billion. That is after all of the record tax and fee increases, cuts to things such as the Disabilities Administration. We're going to end up at over $4 billion in deficits by the Governor Moore's office's own budget projections. When we are already the 5th most expensive state in the country, we lost 5% of our purchasing power. Do you have an idea of how this developed over time?
I think they forgot a long time ago down there in Annapolis that they're not spending monopoly money. We're talking about huge numbers here. And most people, even legislators and even the governor's budget people. They're not used to dealing with big numbers like this. So to them, it's just an abstract concept on a piece of paper. It's like monopoly money.
Fascinating.
They forgot that this is hard-earned taxpayer dollars coming out of Marylanders' pockets. And it's a spending issue. You just look at you mentioned disabilities. He's cutting $150 billion from disabled Marylanders and elderly Marylanders in this year's budget to make up some of that shortfall. Yet he's offering $200 million in tax incentives and set-asides for a private company to build the Sphere at National Harbor. Tell me how that makes sense. How do you promise $200 million of taxpayer money to a private for-profit company that's publicly traded who built the big Sphere out in Las Vegas with zero tax dollars?
Right.
Why would you do that? It shows a clear lack of understanding of basic economics. You live within a budget. I live within a budget. When you don't spend more than you make, but the state seems to have no problem doing that because they simply reach deeper into our pockets every year to make up the difference. And they've gotten to the point where they're reaching in and pulling out lint because there's nothing left. And Marylanders across the board are feeling it, and they're angry about it, and they're finally seeing it.
That they lost the perception, the concept that this is real money, that these numbers represent people's lives. They're not just endless zeros on a page. They never feel the consequences of their choices. And if you have a career in the bureaucracy or the career in politics, or as has become such a big thing, a career in the nonprofits that really are just de facto government agencies at this point, receiving endless grants from the government, you have an entire class of citizens that have never actually had to feel the economic consequences of their own choices because there is always more lint to pull out of the pocket.
You're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, I spent 30 years in the federal government. I saw fraud, waste, and abuse at a galactic scale over that 30-year period. I ran multi-billion-dollar programs before I retired. Much to the dismay of some of my supervisory personnel, I actually turned back money many of those years during that time, that absolutely freaked them out because of the concept of governmental spending, where if you don't spend it all, you can't ask for more next year, which is ridiculous. They forgot that this is not abstract numbers on a page. This is people's livelihoods. You can't continue to take money from people, not give them what you're promising, and expect that they're going to just keep working it over. Our purchasing power has gone down in Maryland. Some of the highest taxes in the country, the highest energy cost in the country, the second highest gas tax in the country here in Maryland. Then that money's supposed to be going to the roads to fix the roads. Well, I don't know about you gentlemen, but in my neighborhood, I've got potholes that'll swallow an SUV. For what we're paying in MVA fees, gas taxes, and all the other various and sundry fees, we should be driving on streets paved of gold, and we're not. Snow removal. God, I don't know how it is where you're at. We still have complete lanes of state roads that have not been plowed here in Prince George's County. In the most populous county in the state, we have sidewalks that you can't walk on that are public sidewalks. So you've got 10 feet of snow and ice on sidewalks in some areas. It's ridiculous. There's no excuse for this. There's none.
One of the reasons why Maryland's economy is doing so poorly is the Blueprint for America that was passed a couple of years ago by this administration. If you could just take a minute, encapsulate for our viewers what the Blueprint basically entails, why it is bad, and what you're going to do as governor to get rid of it.
The Blueprint, in principle, the Kirwan Commission's Blueprint for Maryland, it has laudable goals. It was designed to try to improve the performance of Maryland schools. But what it does is it throws another $10 billion over the next 10 years at the education system. The problem is throwing good money into a failed system is never a recipe for success. Never. Even without the Blueprint, Maryland spends more than 37 other states in the nation right now on education, about $20,000 on average across the state per pupil per year. Yet our 4th and 8th graders read and do math at below the national average on a consistent basis. And that's not a good return on your investment. Maryland high school diplomas mean nothing if the kid can't read it. And no Maryland business is going to hire a Maryland high school graduate if they can't make change for $1 or do simple math. That's where we're at now. And it's got nothing to do with the money we're throwing at the system. It's got to do with the system itself. It's broken. The Board of Education, State Board of Education says only 25 cents of every dollar that we spend on education in the state actually makes it into the classroom. That means 75 cents of every dollar, 3/4 of that money, is spent in overhead and administrative costs. Here in Prince George's County, we have one school administrator for every teacher in the classroom. That's ridiculous. I went to Maryland Public Schools. I can read. I can do math. I can make change for $1. And when I went to school here in Maryland, there was one school administrator for every 8 to 10 teachers in the classroom. Those teachers back then spent time teaching the basics, reading, phonics, math, science, social studies. They weren't spending time on gender studies, what pronouns to use, social issues. That was not the focus of the school system back then. And since it has morphed into that, it has failed our children, and it is failing to provide them the basis and the good foundation for a successful future. We're going to fix that. We're going to work to scrap the blueprint, because while its goals are laudable, its execution is horrible, and it's unsustainable from a fiscal standpoint as it is. It's going to bankrupt the state. And we can't afford it.
Well,
and it doesn't have to be money. You have to refocus the Board of Education. And who appoints the Board of Education at the state level? The governor. So there'll be a new Board of Education that remembers why they are there. We'll get the Board of Education at the state level out of the classrooms. We have local boards of education in every county that are elected by the people. Those people know best what is necessary and what is needed in those communities. One-size-fits-all solutions from the state never work. What works in Baltimore City probably won't work in the Garrett County Public School System or in the Worcester County Public School System. There are some things that are universal, but each of our counties, as you pointed out at the beginning, are culturally and educationally and economically different. They need different solutions, and those solutions are best formulated by people closest to the issue, by the local boards of education. We're going to make the State Board of Education do its job, which is overseeing state standards and making sure that funding is going to the counties as necessary. That is one of the main reasons that I selected Dr. Brenda Cham as my running mate. Education is a huge issue in Maryland, as it should be. She's a teacher. She's in the classroom every day. She's been teaching special education in Washington County for 30 years. She holds a PhD in special education leadership. She is a former state legislator, the first African-American woman to ever serve in the Maryland General Assembly as a Republican. She is well respected on both sides of the aisle to this day in Annapolis. And who best to help us fix the public school system than a teacher? And more importantly, she will also incorporate the needs, the desires, and the suggestions of parents, something the Kerwin Commission failed to do.
One of the biggest criticisms that I have heard of the Kerwin Commission and what it came up with, which is now referred to as the blueprint, is that really it was a set of principles that essentially came from the teachers union. I mean, it's been argued whether or not the Kerwin Commission, if they were pulling information or input from anywhere other than that source, because it's just a universal checkbox list of those policies that they have held for many years now. We had the president of the Carroll County Board of Education on, and Carroll County is a fantastic example in the sense that they always routinely earn the top 1, 2, or 3 rankings for academic performance, while simultaneously being the cheapest, lowest cost per student. And when we asked him, what is the secret sauce that allows that far superior academic performance, he said, it is very simple. We simply stay focused on the basics, as you mentioned, and we do not allow teachers to talk about politics. Part of it is because it is distracting to the educational process, but the other part is we only have a few minutes a day. We got to be practical with those minutes. I thank you for actually for choosing Brenda Cham as your running mate for that reason. I've had the privilege of knowing her for several years now. Phenomenal person.
Incredible lady. And Steve Whistler, I believe that's the gentleman you're speaking of up there in Carroll County. I know Steve. I was actually with him the other night. Steve and the Carroll County Board do a phenomenal job. You're absolutely right. And so, as do other boards throughout the state, quite frankly. Worcester County has done a phenomenal job recently, too. They're number one in the state right now. I talk with county school superintendents all the time and school board members from across the state. And you're right. That is one of the primary things that they stress, is the fact that the state Board of Education has gotten into their knickers so deep with what the curriculum must be that they have very little room to maneuver, because if they choose not to do what the state board wants them to do, they cut their funding. That's unacceptable. You know, you're right. The Kerwin Commission took most of its inputs from the Maryland Teachers Association, from the union.
Explain to our viewers why that's a problem. Some people will say, well, the teachers union, they know the kids, they know the situation. Why is the teachers union, being pretty much the architect of the blueprint, why is that so dangerous?
It's dangerous because the teachers union has a vested interest in getting more money for the school system rather than improving outcomes. That's not their focus. That's not the union's focus. Now, Maryland has incredible teachers.
Yes,
they're
100%.
dedicated, highly motivated teachers. So the problem with the Kerwin Commission is not one teacher was on the commission. One classroom teacher. More importantly, not one ordinary parent was on that commission. Who do you think is in the best position to architect a plan to better educate children than the people who do it every day and the people whose children it is? A lot of the people in the teachers union that they referred to with the Kerwin Commission are no longer classroom teachers, they're administrators. So these aren't people who are actually in the classroom every day with the students. And again, they have their own political agenda. A lot of the money the teachers union gets goes straight back into the pockets of legislators in Annapolis in the form of campaign donations. Again, a very dangerous combination, in my opinion. Is it any wonder when you mandate things like that our kids can't read? And that we're setting them up for failure? We've taken shop class or trades out of the school systems in a lot of counties. Not every student is destined for college. We've got to be able to offer alternatives. We've got to be able to offer trade schools, technical schools, computer certification classes, things that don't cost a whole lot, but set our children up for success as adults. We need to get back to setting our children up for success.
In Boston, our class was called Home Economics, John.
Right.
And it was very similar. However, it was a lot of cooking in there, and it was mostly girls. So, of course, I signed up immediately.
Right. We had home ec too, and I signed up too for that exact reason. It was
one of two guys in there, and we were both very, very smart men.
You know, other guys were signing up for shop. I signed up for home ec because that's where all the cute girls were.
By the way, no joke, and to our point, I still cook to this day. I mean, I cook most of the meals from my home. I have my entire life. Life skills were learned in home economics when I was 13, 14 years old.
So we can fix this. It's not that hard, but you can't just keep throwing more money at a failed system. Brenda and I also are very in favor of school choice and of having the dollars follow the student. Because if you are paying your hard-earned tax dollars to support a system that has failed your child to the point that you feel you need to either homeschool them or put them into a private school, why are you then having to pay out of your pocket for that? That money should come back to you in the form of a tax credit, because if you're homeschooling your child, there's expenditures that you incur doing that, up to $10,000 in a lot of cases. So you should get a tax credit for that because you're actually saving the state money. Because if we're spending $20,000 a student and you're spending 10 to educate them, you're saving us $10,000. And making these public schools compete for those dollars will breed improvement, because competition breeds improvement. Only two things happen when you have to compete. You either win or you lose.
When you exist in a system that is only able to be maintained because you can force other people's tax dollars to make you the winning team, then you end up with an inherent motivation to ensure that there never is competition.
Exactly. And either way, if they win, if the public schools fail or they succeed, the students are the ones who win in this.
Yeah. Another subject that has the potential to have a very large impact on Maryland is the Senate and the House just recently made the 287G program illegal for the local elected sheriffs to be able to work with. In regards to the 287G program, what is your take on that?
You know, again, as a former law enforcement officer and as a former federal law enforcement officer as well, and I consult with ICE and CBP, I have for the past 13 years, some of this on the 287G program. I know how this program works. And banning this program for the state of Maryland endangers Maryland lives. We've seen this time and time again in Maryland. There are at least 5 cases that I can quote off the top of my head where Maryland women have been murdered by illegal criminal aliens who had been previously incarcerated in a Maryland jail somewhere, who had been released rather than be turned over to ICE. Those women would be alive today if the entire state cooperated. Now, Florida, every county, all 67 counties in Florida cooperate in the 287G program with ICE, and their crime rate has dropped exponentially. In the 9 Maryland counties, it was 8, it's now 9, the 9 Maryland counties that cooperate with ICE with the 287G program have some of the lowest crime rates in the country. The people in Annapolis, through their virtue signaling, don't understand the program. This is not a program that allows police officers to go round up illegal aliens. This is a program where when you commit a crime in Maryland and you're getting booked into a county jail, the corrections personnel simply check your status in the ICE computers. And if it comes back that you're an unlawful alien, they notify ICE that they have you in custody, and they ask them if they want to come get you. And they have 48 hours to come get you. And if they come and get that person, they come and get them in a controlled environment where it's safe for the officer, it's safe for the public, and it's safe even for the criminal unlawful alien. When you don't cooperate with ICE and you let these people go, now you wind up with a Minnesota situation when you have to send ICE into the streets to go find them. When they have to go find them, it's more dangerous for the officers, it's more dangerous for the public, and it's even more dangerous for the criminal unlawful alien. And you need more people to do it. It presents a larger footprint. If you want to eliminate situations like Minnesota, you cooperate in the 287G program. I talked with Sheriff Chuck Jenkins yesterday morning about this. I talked with Sheriff Jim DeWeese in Carroll County about this the other night when I was out in Carroll County with him. I've talked with Sheriff Jeff Gaylor about this. All 3 of these gentlemen are in violent agreement. Their crime rates are as low as they are as a result of their cooperation with the 287G. I don't think it will stand in court, quite frankly. It will be challenged. Sheriffs across the state are already lining up to challenge this in court. It will be challenged, and I thoroughly believe it will fail it will be overturned in the court system, because, as Jim DeWeese put it, no governor or legislator can tell a constitutionally elected sheriff that they cannot communicate with another law enforcement agency. They have constitutional responsibilities under the Maryland Constitution. And if you want to change those responsibilities, it requires a constitutional amendment, not a law.
Yeah, we've had Sheriff Chuck Jenkins on several times, and he's explained the 287G program. And I think you hit it right in the head. This is the jailhouse model that is being used in Maryland. Criminal who's been caught and is being booked in They're not going on the streets looking for illegal aliens. It simply affects people who have already been charged with a crime.
And the county wins because the county gets funding then from the federal government for participating. The actual corrections officers win because they get a clearance from the Department of Homeland Security because now they are guarding federal detainees while they're waiting for ICE to come get them. So they get a federal clearance. They get background checked and cleared through the federal government, which is a benefit for them. They also get a stipend without that coming out of the Maryland budget or the county budget.
Sheriff Chuck Jenkins on, who went into more detail about one of the points you made, that it is actually safer for the illegal immigrant community itself to have the 287G program. Essentially, he predicted while talking to us 2 months ago what happened in Minneapolis. As a result, their presence of ICE in Frederick County is essentially non-existent. And so therefore, the immigrant community, as well as anyone else who would be offended by the presence of ICE, has nothing to worry about because they literally are not there, because Sheriff Jenkins was the first sheriff in the country to sign up for the 287G program. What he said is that if this is passed and is upheld, where 287G cannot be used in the state of Maryland, he said Maryland will become more and more like what Minneapolis is now. If it is maintained and 287G cannot be used, what the consequences would be in regards to that across our state?
They'd be horrific across the state. You're absolutely right. And Chuck Jenkins is right. And Chuck and I are very close. We talk on a routine basis. When you have to go out into the streets and find these people, it takes a larger amount of agents to do that, because you can't just send two guys to a jail to handcuff a guy who's already in custody and walk him out to the car. You've got to go kick doors. You've got to go search for people. That's dangerous work. It takes more than two guys to do it. It takes a presence. It's dangerous for the community. It's dangerous for the officers. It's dangerous for the criminal unlawful alien. The people in Annapolis also forgot that these people that we're talking about are criminals. And by any stretch of the imagination, these are people who have committed crimes against the state of Maryland. Not just the fact that they're illegal aliens. These are criminal illegal aliens. And these people prey not only on American citizens, they prey on the illegal alien community in Maryland because they know those people are afraid to go to the authorities. So it creates a more dangerous situation for those unlawful aliens who are otherwise simply just trying to survive here in the state. And again, we talked about the Maryland women who have been murdered by illegal aliens. There was a 2-year-old child who was shot and killed here in Prince George's County, about 2 miles from my house, as part of a drive-by from a gang-related shooting. The offender had previously been in custody in both Montgomery County and Prince George's County, through sanctuary counties, by the immigration court. There was an order of removal for him already in existence, and a detainer that was filed in both those counties. Neither county honored the detainer. Both counties released him, and that mother that mother was an unlawful alien herself. She lost her 2-year-old child at the hands of a criminal unlawful alien, because 2 Maryland counties let this guy go and refused to cooperate with federal authorities. That's unacceptable. Yeah, I want somebody in Annapolis to explain to that mother how that makes sense, how it makes sense to let criminals out on the street.
And you said earlier, it's performative politics. It's theater, and it's virtue signaling. People looking for votes from a community that basically will be terrorized by their own decisions. So,
exactly,
John, we appreciate having you on. We're almost at the end of our time. What's the game plan for you and Brenda for the rest of this time until the election?
We are going to continue pounding the pavement and meeting people. I mean, like I say, I was up in Frederick earlier today on WFMD. On their afternoon drive show. I was on their morning show the day before. We are all over the state. Our calendar is published on our website and on social media every week so that people can see where we're going to be. We encourage folks to come out and meet us Tell us what's bothering you. Tell us what you want done, and listen to some of the issues or some of the solutions that we have. Remember, again, none of the problems in Maryland are insurmountable. They all can be solved, and most of them can be solved fairly simply. It just takes two things: a governor who cares enough to do it, and one who's not looking for the next rung up on the ladder, so he doesn't have to worry about who he's going to make mad politically by fixing a problem. The bottom line here is Brenda and I are those two people. Common sense, logical solutions to almost every Maryland problem. You know, from our high energy costs, which are directly a result of the governor's poor policy decisions, his green energy policies, to fixing the schools, to improving public safety, to fiscal responsibility, to making sure we account for every single taxpayer dollar. Because I will never forget, as a taxpayer, I will never forget that money's coming out of our pockets. It's not monopoly money. You know, the energy policy thing, this governor has, you know, we pay, as I said, the highest energy cost in the nation now. We've closed down most of the fossil fuel burning plants in this state, which is ridiculous. We need to put those back online, working with the owners of those plants, retrofitting them so that they can cleanly burn fossil fuel. Because right now we import 60% of our electricity from Pennsylvania and West Virginia. Well, guess how they make electricity, folks?
Fossil fuels.
This little thing called coal. These rocks, you may have seen them every once in a while. You know, they burn. We have natural gas, an abundance of natural gas here in Maryland. We could be burning clean natural gas and making our own energy. We need to improve our nuclear situation here. We have a micronuclear technology company in Montgomery County that's at the forefront of micronuclear technology. They're telling me they've been talking with the Moore administration for almost 3 years, and they can't get any traction. They're telling me they can put micronuclear reactors here in Maryland that are safe and affordable, and within 2 years turn us into an energy exporter from an energy importer. Why aren't we doing this? And we will kill things like the windmills off of Ocean City, which nobody there wants. It's destroying marine life. It's screwing with Maryland's maritime economy. And the electricity from them is projected to go to Delaware, not to Maryland. We will also cancel the Piedmont Reliability Project. You know, they will not be running power lines from Peach Bottom Nuclear Plant across Maryland farms to supply electricity to Loudoun County, Virginia data centers. Not on my watch. And they're not going to steal Marylanders' land to do it, and they're not going to charge Marylanders to put those power lines up. That's a ridiculous concept. I'd love to know whose pocket's getting filled as a result of that. But that project will be canceled. And again, all of this is because the Public Service Commission has failed us. And who appoints the PSC? The governor.
Well, John, we want to thank you for coming out. You definitely bring lots and lots of ideas and energy, and we wish you and Brenda the best of luck.
We greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for the opportunity. We look forward to speaking with you again. I know Brenda would love to talk with you again. You know, we'll have her on with you as well. Absolutely. We look forward to it.
I am your host, Mark Flynn. With me is my co-host,
Ethan Lowen.
We want to thank John Myrick, a candidate for governor of Maryland, for coming on the show. If you liked what you heard tonight, like it and share it on both Facebook and YouTube. And we'll see you next time on Mid-Maryland Votes. That wraps up our conversation with John Myrick, GOP candidate for Maryland governor and one of our returning guests who never holds back. We covered criticism of Governor Wes Moore, rising financial concerns, crime, redistricting, and what Myrick says he would do in his first 6 months if elected. If you believe real conversations matter, hit like, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. If you love the episode, share it with a friend. If you hated it, share it with an enemy. We're equal opportunity entertainment.